I opened a maternity boutique and it was called Expecting. I thought that was very clever. Once you pigeonhole yourself with a name, it's very hard to change. I was serving pregnant women and they would say, I'm here for jeans, but I'm not going to buy any dresses or tops because all the styles right now are flowy. So why would I buy maternity clothes when I could buy regular clothes? I was like, if I have to hear this again, I'm going to lose my mind. So we had this little tiny section of non-maternity for people who were no longer pregnant. So many women would say, my friend told me she loves my clothes. She's always asking. And then I tell her where it's from and she's like, I can't walk in there. I don't want people to think I'm pregnant. What if somebody sees me going to Expecting? It had a stigma if you weren't having babies. And so I did. I rebranded. I changed it to Shop Common Thread, and it changed everything. I mean, instantly, our business just took off.
Welcome to the DTC Insider podcast, where online business owners come to find actionable tips and tactics to grow their businesses. Now, here's your host, Brian Roisentul.
Hey, welcome to another episode. As always, I'm Brian Roisentul, your host, and today I'm super excited to chat with Stephani Clymer. She's the founder of Common Thread. She spent nearly 2 decades, listen well, 2 decades in the retail industry, starting with her dream boutique for maternity clothing, Expecting. Over time, she navigated economic downturns, rebranded her business, and transformed it into what we now know as Common Thread. Along the way, she built a strong in-store culture, embraced e-commerce, and adapted to shifting consumer behaviors. In this episode, Stephani shares the highs, the lows, and her approach to building lasting customer relationships in retail. Hey, Stephani, thanks for being on the show.
Brian, it's so great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. So why don't we start since the beginning? What inspired you like 2 decades ago to start your boutique, and how did it evolve to what it is today?
Yeah, gosh. It was my dream. It started in college with my first job that I loved. I guess I was blessed to always have to work through high school and beyond. And I started to work at this little boutique in college. And I just remember thinking the woman who owned it is so awesome and so lucky. It was like, this must be the dream job. And I don't even know, honestly, if it was for her, but that's just what I imagined. Like, how cool. This is yours and you get to wake up and do this and connect with people and choose fashions that help women feel amazing. It was all women then as well. And so it just kind of planted a seed. Like most people, I graduated college, I took a job, I liked it, then I didn't. Then I got into a career that I was like, where you're counting the minutes. I don't know if you've ever had one of those jobs before. I think most of us have, where it's like you're living for Friday, yes. You're dreading Sunday. Sure. And I was young, but I knew I didn't want to do that for my life. And I always say I was young enough and dumb enough to not think like, what if a boutique doesn't work? What do you have, any business just starting this for? So I was 24. I wrote a business plan at night. I got an SBA loan. I decided I was going to open a boutique. Now, this was my planning time was 2005. That was really, an economic high. There was a ton of competition. There were a ton of great boutiques. I'm in Southern California. There's just no shortage of shopping here. And so it was like, what's going to make me stand out? I visited a pregnant friend and had this light bulb moment. And I said, I am going to open a really cute maternity boutique. Again, I'm 24. I'm single. It's like this was a business lane, not a personal need. And I applied for 2 business loans. The first called me in the morning and said yes. I realized just before that phone call, I had missed the no. By the time my voicemail came through, again, technology, 2006, sometimes the voicemails wouldn't come through. That afternoon, I realized that the first phone call was a bank telling me no. The second phone call was a bank that said yes. They gave me the business loan. I didn't own a home. I had to ask my parents to co-sign because I didn't have collateral for the loan. Right. And I opened my first store. And sometimes figuring it out as we go and not really having an out is a great combination, because I had to figure it out and I didn't really see another way out. Nobody else was supporting me. Nobody else was paying my rent. I had to work 7 days a week. I had to be the buyer, the gal who mopped the floors when nobody was there. I had to pay the bills. I had to, we had a very very laughable e-com platform almost 20 years ago, but we uploaded product and I did all of the things, and that was really great. And that was the beginning.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Shopify. Did Shopify even exist back then?
No, I actually, as I'm telling you this story, I thought, I wish I could remember the platform that I used and even the images that you would get from the vendors. Everything was different because vendors weren't used to everybody going online. And honestly, when I started online, I didn't do that right in the beginning. I know that I didn't do that right in the beginning, but I did it early enough for it not to be amazing. And I wish I could go back and remember, I wish I took better notes. What was my purpose? Was I trying to get to my current? I don't remember.
Right.
It was just
even if you had an online store back in 25, you said?
So I opened in 2006. I bet maybe I went online in 2010. I don't remember. I'm sure my guess is it's something that I did. I opened in 2006. 2008 was a big economic downturn.
Yeah.
And when you're in business, you're always kind of looking and trying something new. And I'm sure I made the ignorant assumption that you just go online and then you get more sales, right? If I just put it up there, people from Michigan are going to order my stuff. I had so much to learn. And people talked more about SEO then. They weren't talking about ads and things like that.
Right.
So it was a different world. And my learning curve was steep.
Yeah, well, you started before me. I started in e-commerce in 2013. And back then, there wasn't even, if I'm not mistaken, Instagram didn't exist, or it wasn't definitely what it is today. It was
Definitely
Meta.
not.
But in terms of ads, Meta was very poor. It was the right-hand column, right column ads, small ads with some weird image size. And that's it. Google probably was the strongest one in terms of ads. But even if you were selling online back in 2009 or 2010, you were ahead of most people, I would say, right? Because it wasn't a thing.
But are you ahead if you don't know what you're doing? The difference, what I learned quickly is in a community, if you pick the right location, that's a huge thing. If you open your doors and connect and give great service to people who walk in, that's a huge thing. You can't just say www. whatever, throw up some images and assume it's not you don't have the real estate that's kind of sets you apart. You don't have that service that sets you apart. So I honestly think I just had a website with some images in the beginning. It wasn't, e-com just wasn't a conversation then like it is now.
It was barely the beginning, if I'm not mistaken, of the website, the web 2.0, right? Websites before were read only. And then of course, YouTube came in, I think it was 2005, more or less. YouTube, right?
Okay.
So it was right at the beginning. So after that, what happened?
What happened? I was like this for a very long time. Okay. 2006, you're getting a little better. You're really figuring out the game of commerce in general, more brick and mortar and playing small. Again, things we have now, podcasts and this was blogs were barely on the rise, Instagram, and we just have access to so much. If you start a business now, I think you can fast track in a million ways versus 20 years ago. Then 2008 came and my headspace, unfortunately, was just hang on. And I thought as long as I wasn't closing, because people were closing everywhere, there was so much uncertainty, there was a lot of fear, and I got into a just see it through. And that gets old fast. Nobody really is inspired to wake up and just not close your doors. And in 2011, I had my first child. And for me, that really changed things because as your family grows, you have different goals, if you're kind of trading your time for your career and for your income. And I just thought, what am I doing? I need to elevate this. I need to take this to the next level. Or I need to be done and understand that maybe it's not the right thing for my family. And I had, at the time, I had signed a 3-year lease. On top, so I had 5 years under my belt. I had signed another 3. I have this baby. I always would tell every person, do not make a choice in the first year of your baby's life. And so by the grace of God, I still had 2 more years on my lease. And had I not, I probably would have said, this is a good time to say it's not for me. Find something else to do. Find something easier. Find something that you aren't there 7 days a week that doesn't have the pressure. But I had 2 years. And so I said, I'm going all in and I'm making some changes or I'm walking away and whatever happens, happens. I was just ready for something different. And I looked around and there was boutiques closing everywhere. A lot of the mindset that I had, scarcity, fear. And there was one boutique that had just doubled in size. Their neighbors went out of business. They knocked down the wall, they took over that lease and they doubled in size. And so I went and talked to them. They were nice. They were willing to talk to me. And I said, what did you do? And they were the first person who introduced me to a planner. So here I was, 24, 25, starting this business. Everything I knew about the numbers was something you could find online or I taught myself. And it was my first introduction to a planner, which essentially takes softwares. You know this, but I'm just saying for your listeners, right? Who maybe do or don't know about this, takes the software that a lot of the big retailers use and analyzes your numbers and helps you figure out your turns. You know, how fast are you selling your tops, your jackets, your jeans, what's sitting, what's old, what your margins are. And that was like my first step. That was my first step into taking action that led to sales increasing. And that became an addictive game for me. I love the game. Like, what can I do to influence the outcome versus sitting back and saying, and I think that's so important. I have to say it to myself now, right? Because we've been on an economic high, we've been on an economic low. That's life. That's the cycle. So it's like, how do I take action? What can I do? What can we do as a company versus sitting and waiting?
Yeah, there's a book. I think it's one of these two. I think it's the first one called The 4 Disciplines of Execution for DX. And the other one is Traction by Gino Wickman, I believe. That one is, I think it's well known. But the first one introduces, I think it's the first one that introduces the concept of lag versus lead measures.
Mm.
And that's exactly what you're doing, you know, and why you are succeeding, you know, because you focus on lead measures. It's like when you are, you know, on a diet and you get on the scale is the lag measure. There's nothing you can do when you're on the scale. You're on the scale. It will report past things, right? Or the current state of your past decisions, let's say. Lead measures is your eating behaviors, workout, routine. So everything you can do to improve when you get to the scale, per se. So in this case, it's the same. It's what can you do to influence the output and or the outcome, and not just focus on, you know, praying or desires or procrastinating. That's a tough one for me. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So you looked for advice from someone who was successful at the game. You learned from them. They helped you. And then what happened?
Sales were increasing. And that was great. But as you mentioned, I opened a maternity boutique and it was called Expecting. I thought that was very clever. You learn a lot of lessons in business. I'll tell you that lesson because I was sharing it with my son the other day. He's 11. He says he wants to start, you know, a brand. So I was sharing my lessons as he was thinking of a name. And I said, once you pigeonhole yourself with a name, it's very hard to change. So here I was called Expecting, and clients were coming in. I always listen to clients. The best part about having a brick and mortar store, even now that I also have e-com, is the human beings who come in. They love to talk and tell you what they're looking for, what they want, what makes them excited, what makes them feel good. And I was serving pregnant women and they would say, I'm here for jeans, but I'm not going to buy any dresses or tops because all the styles right now are flowy. So why would I buy maternity clothes when I could buy regular clothes?
Right.
And I was like, if I have to hear this again, I'm going to lose my mind. And have you ever heard, I hear this all the time, the mind that has the problem isn't always the mind that can solve the problem. And so this is where working with the company that helped with the numbers, you know, it was like having a boss without having a boss. You know, when the month would be bad, it's like, what could you do? Plan an event. And I'm talking about this and I'm talking about this. And I'm like, I'm so sick of hearing this same sentiment of they're not going to buy tops and dresses. And it was like, so carry non-maternity tops and dresses, but carry them for pregnant women. That was step one. Well, then those pregnant women, we developed relationships. I've always been a relationship and a connection person, which I think has helped save my storefronts in a world of fast, free, easy e-com purchasing. But I've always loved the relationship. And so then they would say, well, I want to come back and shop with you. Like, I love your clothes. So we had this little tiny section of non-maternity for people who were no longer pregnant. And I thought, I have the wrong name. My store's called Expecting. And everybody, and I mean everybody, it didn't matter if they were in the business, not in the business, would say, you've been around a decade. You can't change your name. That's branding. It's marketing 101. And in 2015, 16, a series of events occurred. And I was like, I just know I need to change my name, to the point that I'm not telling anybody. I found a marketing company. I hired them to help me. And I said, we're doing this because I've pigeonholed myself, right? And so many women would say, my friend told me she loves my clothes. She's always asking. And then I tell her where it's from. And she's like, I can't walk in there. I don't want people to think I'm pregnant. What if somebody sees me going to Expecting? It had a stigma if you weren't having babies. And so I rebranded. I changed it to Shop Common Thread. That was 2016. And that was my first most important business decision. And, you look back, you never know at the moment, but you look back on things you've done. Certain things just work. And it changed everything. I mean, instantly our business just took off, and we changed to Shop Common Thread. I remember as I was toying with names, somebody said, that doesn't tell anybody who you are. And I'm like, that's the point. I'm not doing this again. I don't want to be the store that sells clothes to women who are 30, the stores that, like, whatever the name could be, I will never just pigeonhole it again.
If you take a look at the name of the most well-known brands, they don't say anything. Like, the name itself.
They're words. Exactly. Like, what is Nike?
Take Apple, Nike. I don't know if you read the book. I recommend the book here, and it was mentioned in many episodes in the last few years. It's Shoe Dog, the story of the founder, and it has a beautiful meaning actually, but it wasn't picked by the founder. It was actually, the first name was Blue Ribbon. Blue Ribbon was the first name because, again, Nike and Blue Ribbon were just impulse names. They needed to make a decision because they were at the phone with I think it was the Japanese manufacturer, and they said, what name should we put on the shoes? And I think it was something like, he took a look at his shoes, and it was like Blue Ribbon. And it was like that for many years until one of his right hands, let's say, they carried the story around the temple of Nike, which is, Nike is the goddess of victory, I think it is. So very, it was cool. Yeah, it's powerful.
But it's like, we hear Nike and we don't know that, right? But now it's a household name. We have to remember, when Nike became Nike, it wasn't a household name.
Yeah, but there's something I heard recently and I love, and it's something that I think, and I encourage everyone listening to this to think about. It's like, Apple doesn't say anything, but can you imagine, let's do the exercise now, what an Apple hotel would look like? Can you imagine, what a Nike hotel could look like?
Right.
No, you can, but can you imagine what let's say, Common Thread hotel will look like? Can your customers imagine that too? Can your team imagine that too? That's the beauty of that. That's a brand.
That's a brand versus just a name.
Exactly.
And it's hard to build a brand if it only evokes one thing. If it can only sell, if your brand explains exactly what you sell in the moment. And this is, again, young and a lot to learn.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not about the rebrand of, like, doing the rebranding of, or let's say changing the name. It's about changing sometimes it's a focus with certain words. It's very similar to what happened to you. I don't remember the name of this brand, but it's a very well-known brand. I don't think it was like for luggage. One of the most well-known brands for luggage, let's say.
Okay.
Let's say they were probably mainly related to travel, so.
Okay.
And they wanted to sell things that weren't related to, travel, right? So they said something like, we sell things to go, or to something like that, like to move around. Or it's like, it could be in the city, it could be, because they started selling some, bags for men and for women. But so they changed that because nobody wanted to buy something, because it was like, I'm not going to travel soon, so I'm not going to buy. So I'm not expecting, but in this case, they reframed that around that. In your case, it was the name, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't the concept. For them, it wasn't the name. It was what people associated the brand to, is things to travel, So they tried to reframe that and they made it, right? So yeah, it happens to many people. Okay. So fast forward today. You have two
Yeah.
stores, you have the commerce, and is it something that we discussed recently by the end of 2024 with a few brands, and it's like the importance to of interacting with your customers live. If you have if you're fortunate enough to have a store, that's amazing. If you don't, some people I interviewed even went to Central Park or some other locations with a sign, ask us about our bags or products or some,
How'd that go? I love that.
yeah, well, the power of the non-scalable efforts these days, as you said at the beginning of the episode, is that they can actually scale because they can actually go viral. But even if they don't go viral, because who cares anyways? It's like you can share those things
Mhm.
online and
Yeah.
reach way more people, like millions of people, literally. But that would be, let's say, going viral. But let's say thousands of people even that were not present in that moment. So they actually uploaded this to Instagram, ads, and everywhere, right? So interacting with your customers, it went great, by the way, but it's something that gives you the what we all call in the online world to think we are fancy is like the zero party data. It is the data that people give us, brands, about them. Are you buying for yourself or somebody else? What do you like? Which other brands did you consider before you bought? How many months have you been following us before you made the first purchase? Like, you can ask many things, but when you are face to face, you can actually see, you can actually hear customers talking, I don't know, couples, friends talking between each other, and you can say, oh, does he have do you have one with a bigger pocket, with a smaller pocket, with a different strap, or with a different whatever colors? You can actually feel different stuff that can help you improve, right?
And I think how you can feel when people want feedback and you're like, I'm going to be honest with this person. And it's not mean, but you can like feel they're open. They actually care about my opinion. And I just think opening ourselves up when a client tells me, recently we had a client who shopped with us for years and she shared with one of my store managers, I was out with some friends the other night and gals were saying they haven't been shopping with you as often lately. And this gal just nice. She has no ties to our company. She's just shopped with us for so many years. She's asked them why not. And they said it's just feeling like a lot of basics and I'm wanting something unique. I'm wanting something dressier. We could have gotten defensive. We could have, said, well, this is why, that is like gold. It was like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for your time. Tell me more. My manager told me, I reached out to this client. I was like, thank you so much for the time, for the honesty. That feedback, that can change your whole company. And just being open to that from customers, these people are taking their time to go out of their way to come to you and to tell you what they know. And we're here for our customer. Like, it doesn't matter if I love everything in the store if nobody else does. It doesn't matter if it makes me feel good, but nobody else wants it. And so it is the biggest gift. And it is what has changed our business the most. I've always just thought the customer will tell us what they want and what they're needing in the moment. And sometimes they tell you with words. Sometimes they tell you with spending habits, but the information is there.
So what, I've been posting a lot on, we have a weekly newsletter. Mm-hmm. It's under the same name. We share a lot of things we learn from people like you and from our clients as well at the agency and from people online as well, right? We love, being exposed to these, learning many things because it's the way to stay ahead of the curve or at least try to follow the latest trends. And one of the things that, we see is that as a common pattern for 7, 8, 9-figure companies and so on, is that the successful ones go beyond the storefront. They are willing to go beyond the storefront. So it could have different meanings to different brands. Some engage with their community heavily. Mm-hmm. I know you do, and we can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Some of them, they host events. Some of them do, 1,000 things. Like I review here Battle Box. I don't know if you know Battle Box. It's a surviving company. Like they sell surviving gear. It's a subscription box. They have their own TV show on Netflix. They are crazy. They have like 1 million subscribers on YouTube and millions of followers as well across social media. And one of the things they recently did is the battle games instead of battle box battle games, and they did like it's a reality show, right? So they go above and beyond for their customers on the day-to-day basis, but they also go beyond the storefront. They don't hide behind the website and say, we have products, here's the product, we do an ad, and that's it. No, they get involved. Another one is Born Primitive. It's from California as well, and I think LA, 9-figure brand. They sell apparel, but it's a former Navy SEAL, and basically it's tied to the veterans, and so they do some actions for Veteran Days. They supported gyms when they were closing due to COVID back in the day. So they do amazing stuff. So that's how you stand out as a brand these days, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's because it's a relationship. It's not a take. It's not transactional. If you really love what you do and care how the consumer feels, they become, sometimes they become friends. It's like this. We're not just taking. We're not just trading you a sweater for $1. It's a relationship. And when these people come to you, whether online or in store, they also have passions. They also have charities. They also have children. They also have husbands. They also have dogs, whatever it is, right? And they care deeply about what they love. And when you can find that common ground and connect and support, it's like they've let you in to this awesome piece of their life. We happen to serve a lot of moms just because of our styles and our values and the way we present ourselves and what we do. We work with a lot of women who happen to have children in school. There is nothing that a woman shopping in my store knows about, cares about, loves more than her children, their success, their school, whatever it may be. So when we can get involved and it's like, tell us more, how can we support? What can we do? It's kind of like they're letting us in. It's an opportunity for us to develop a relationship. And I think that I actually just think it's something you are supposed to do, like almost an expectation when you enter a community that you become part of that community, that you're not just a space there to take, but you actually have a purpose in that community to connect and give back and to form relationships. It's like having a neighbor. It's like buying a home. You could be there with your garage closed as fast as possible, or you can do what we're actually supposed to do and create relationship and serve one another and elevate one another. And so I really challenge myself from an e-com standpoint. I love hearing new ideas, and it's something I study because it's actually harder online to me versus to do in person and in community. So online, we really had to utilize social media and find ways to engage and converse. And how do we have more than, again, just a transaction? Because that's where you lose. It's where you lose the passion. When you say I've been doing this for 2 decades, if it was all about transaction, I would have been out.
And how do you do that online? Because as you said, in store, it's, I don't know if easy, but easier, than online.
Yeah, because people are coming to you, right? And they want to chat, but you're online, and think of online. We're so busy and we're scrolling and we're inundated, and it's like, there's ads that we don't even know are ads, and there's podcasts popping up, and it's like this, and we want to know about all of it, right? Our feed is filled with what we want to know about. I'm old. I owned this store when young girls worked for me and said, you got to get on Instagram. Okay. That's how old I am in this game. It wasn't even a thing. And I think you mentioned it too. And so I was like, okay, Facebook was the thing. And we all just posted pictures of our dogs, our kids, what we were eating, kind of. The food pictures weren't as big then, but we went on Instagram because free marketing also came along while I was already in business. When I started, I had to run an ad in newspapers, which is a very expensive, risky move. Right. And talk about no way to relate or engage. You just have a flat photo. and you better pick the right one, and you can't A/B test anything, and you're not getting feedback, right? So the world has changed for the better in a lot of ways. And I think that one of the best things I've learned, really, my mom is a great businesswoman, and it's like innovating, learning, being curious. So we got on Instagram, and it was not what it is today. And everybody would do flat lays. I don't know if you remember that, but a flat lay was like you would lay out your sweater, your jeans, your accessory, and you would take a picture from above and you would post it. Well, one day a client messaged and said, I wish I could see this on. And my store manager said to me, could you put that outfit on? I'm going to send her a picture. And that was how try-ons were born for us. Try-ons weren't a big thing. Other boutiques weren't doing try-ons. This manager is still with me. She's just got one of those brains that like always sees, you know, the next step and the next great idea. And she was like, what if you put that in stories? Like, what if you started to try it on and show people what it fits like? Tell people about the sizing. And I thought, that seems weird, but we weren't that busy, you know, maybe we were trying to drum up business. There's been so many things, and that may have single-handedly saved our storefront in 2020.
Wow.
I don't know how many years we'd been doing try-ons, but we had developed a following. I mean, my husband would think,
those who are not familiar with that.
Okay, so we would go on Insta story. So you have your feed and then you have stories. We would go in stories, and I would hold up my camera in the fitting room. You know, it was really not great in the beginning. And I would say, I'm wearing this sweater and it's this much money and it's by this brand and this is how it fits. And I paired it with this necklace and these jeans, and like, here's a bag you should get and whatever. And then people would comment. And so in the beginning, this was so long ago, our website was like so lame, non-existent. Not everything would be on there. And so they would DM us. They would message us if they wanted the product, and we would invoice them. Like, we would email them an invoice. It was wild. So then we had to build a website and make it easier, and you can just link, right? And it's like, you just tap the link. It takes you to the sweater. But this was like before, like, to know it. This was before, I mean, this was years ago that we started this, and it was, our followers loved it. They were like, this is awesome. I would have men at like charity events for my kids' school. My husband's like, this is so weird. They'd be like, every night we get in bed and I hear your voice. My wife's watching your try-on videos, deciding what she needs. Clients would come in with their phone. So some would buy virtually, but a lot would come in and they'd have all these screenshots of all the things I want to try on. It was like they were virtually building their fitting room.
Okay.
And it created a relationship it was like my first glimpse into the fact that you can create a relationship through this phone. Yeah. Because now they're chatting with you. Oh, I like that sweater. Oh, that's awesome. Where your daughter's graduating and you get to go to the graduation and it's in Minnesota. It's going to be freezing, right? Now you've got a relationship. Now you're asking them, how did it go? Is your daughter interviewing? What's she going to do now? Like, now you're in to their life and you're invested. And so that was my first understanding that you could do that, where I used to always think like, I love in person because I like relationships. I like connections. I like knowing how that item made you feel when you wore it on that date. And when you're coming to a small store, I think you like that they know what's in your closet and they know what you're doing.
So I'll mention a few ideas, not only for you, but for the audience as well. Because we, again, discuss many things, not only with clients, but with many amazing founders such as yourself here in the podcast, about how brands can build relationships online. It's definitely not the same as being in real life, but again, you cannot meet everyone in real life. So first off, I'm talking about like brands of all sizes, I could say. They call their customers. You can choose whether to call your VIP customers, whether to do cohorts, of some VIP, some lapsed customers, those who didn't buy in a long time, but bought, once or twice in the past. And those who didn't even buy, those couldn't be customers, of course, but people who are in your email list, but for so long ago and never, ended up buying for some reason. So
yeah,
you can call them from a place of, even more your customers of, how it goes, right? But from a point of, I want to learn, I want to help, I want to provide a better experience, better products, better everything. So do you have 2 minutes for us to discuss? If you want to give them an incentive, that's on you, of course, but you can call them. Sometimes it's the same CEO who called them or the founder. Sometimes it's the CX team, the customer success team, or somebody else. You don't need to do it every single day, every single week, or every single month. But the important thing is that you that as a brand, as we were saying, you care because they're not coming to the store, you're coming to them. You're coming to their home, let's say, to their phone. But regardless, you're there for them. And it's even bigger because, again, you are coming to them as a brand saying, you bought this a few months ago. You'd love to know more about your experience. Do you have 2 minutes? So that goes a long way. Not many brands are willing to do it, but those that are willing to do it, they actually get a lot of information. Another way is to, some people have communities, Facebook groups, school, Slack. It could be an email list as well. Why not? But in the other way, like again, Opbi is a big, supplement brand. They are the founders of a big e-commerce community called the Chew on This community. They have podcasts. They are amazing. Ronak Shah, Ash Malwani, and Ankit Patel. They built from $0 to $80 million in 4 years. So I think now they are in the $80 or $90 million. Yeah. And I interviewed one of them a few years ago and keep in touch with them. And one of the things they built, among many other founders as well I talked to, is the community. It's a Facebook group, let's say in their case. They have, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of customers. And before releasing a product, they ask them, what do you want to see next? They ask them for feedback. They do giveaways. They are engaged. Some other way to stay in touch is to have an app. An app these days is not as, the bar is not that high because you can have a no-code app with Tapcart or any other company. I have no affiliation to that company. You can find the one that you like the most. But the thing is that in the app, here's the beauty. You don't have a copy of your store. You have something to complement your store. So let's say you have, in this case, apparel brand. You can have the look for the day, for the night, for the week, for the weekend, for if you're pregnant, if you're not, if you whatever, So you can have different combinations, different ideas. Like it's content creation for some brands. Again, this supplement brand, they have recipes. I don't know. They have ideas. The night routine.
You're providing something. That's what I'm hearing, right? You're providing something. You're giving information that they want to have anyways. They want this information, right?
And you're committing to creating content, as you said. The commitment to content creation, I don't think it's optional these days. I think it's something that brands that are not doing that is probably like I speak with, again, 9-figure brands who have like the founder or some other team member in the or some creator, let's say full-time creator sometimes, like some hours a day, every single day of the week, some hours a day recording content, right? So
yeah.
There's another 8-figure brand founder, Brock Mamoser at Frostbody. He's great as well, 24 years old or something like that. And he built I think it's $50 million now brand. And he said, I've never thought making TikToks could be important, but every day I wake up, thinking about the most important action, and it's TikTok. So I'll spend the day making TikToks. $50 million. Founder, so
isn't it? And you have to be open. I mean, I think that's why you get these 24 just doing phenomenal things, because he was open to that, right? He's part of the changing generation, acknowledging how fast technology is moving and the opportunity that's there versus getting stuck in meetings and spreadsheets and whatever it is, right? He's realizing nothing matters unless I can bring the customers to us and have them interested in our product.
Yeah, and talking about interaction, social commerce, it's starting to happen. Social commerce, for those who are not aware about it, is, in this case, let's say TikTok Shop is the most, let's say, well-known example, but YouTube Shopping launched as well. Meta is launching something in the UK as we speak. They have already launched it, and they are launching their creator marketplace, affiliate marketplace, like TikTok style. So you have someone in your store, not only to receive people who come through the door, but someone on the back going live for how many hours a day, selling things on TikTok, interacting with people. Is it transactional? Sure. But it's meeting your customers where they are as well.
Absolutely. And that's always changing. That's the thing. You're never figuring it out. You're never done. You never get to check that box and say, I got that, right? Because it's always changing. The way people are consuming information and product is always changing. And not everybody's the same. I mean, I have I have a lot of clients who live within, a tiny radius of our store, and they buy 95% of what they buy online. And they choose
Right.
to come pick it up at the store, but they buy it online. And they live right there. And then the person who lives next door to them has never clicked buy online and comes in to see us every other day because she loves to chit chat.
Right.
Everybody's different. There has to be different avenues for different people. And figuring that out, you can either make it fun or you can be frustrated. And that's a decision. And we just choose to make it fun. I choose to surround myself with people who are younger or more creative than I am, because they let me into what the next great thing is and what we need to be doing.
Yeah. You do things like handwritten notes, sending handwritten notes with orders, right?
Yeah, that's the old school in me. That's the connection. That's the way I see it is. So we do run ads. We run ads on Google and we run ads, on Facebook, Instagram. So we get a lot of first-time clients. And I think that most of our first-time clients probably come by way of ad at some point. I understand, they don't buy right away. Maybe they join the email list. Maybe they follow along, whatever it may be. But I always think when you're a first-time client, you don't know anything about us. You have no idea if the girl in the video that first drew you in, does she work for us? Is she an influencer? You just don't know anything about us. You don't know about our warehouse and our people and who's filling your order. So if we can humanize this and you can realize, I think our assumption online is we buy something online, we're never going to hear from anybody. They're going to send it to us. It's going to work or it's not going to work. We're going to click a link if we want to return it. Everything's so transactional that we're not even thinking about the person behind. And I want them to know there's a person. There's a person who cares about how it arrives at their doorstep, if they like it, if they need help. So we always put a note, just a little cheer. Like you open up that package, you can get a basic clear envelope or brown box from Amazon and have honestly whatever you want delivered tomorrow. So why are you going somewhere else? They have to be providing something different, some sort of value. So we always leave a note. It just feels good. Even if you've been shopping with us 100 times, it's fun. You're like, when I get my package from them, it's in a pretty envelope or box. It has a positive message. The tissue paper says, find your joy. Like we just want people to feel good. There's a little handwritten note. And if it's a first-time client, the gals who do our shipping, they'll send a little video because again, I want them to be like, I am a human, Kim, she'll make a video. Thank you for shopping with us. I'm here when you get your package. If anything isn't right, let me know. Is it the sizing? Is it the style? Was there a flaw? Did we forget something? Like, are you happy? Are you not happy? What happens more often than not is they're like, I love these jeans, but I need more tops to wear with them and I don't know how to style them. Right. What shoes do I wear? Right. Now, that's so fun. Now, instead of just shipping a package, the gals in my warehouse are like, oh, she got these jeans. We just got these shoes. She might love them.
That's amazing.
It's humanizing the experience. Because I don't know about you. When I buy online, I have no idea. I have no idea if a person cares.
And we feel that they don't, just as a default,
I think we default to they don't care. If I have an issue, I'm going to have to fight them on it. Like we don't expect kindness and just compassion and a desire to help. So when we get that, it really stands out.
Yeah.
So,
Stephani, I had, a blast. There were many, many golden nuggets for me and for the audience. I want to be respectful with your time. So before you go, I wanted to ask you one more thing. It's something that we always ask by the end of each interview. And it's, do you have a book that you can think of to share with the audience?
Yes. So I'm going to share a book that's pretty personal to me because many years ago, I hired a coach and she's helped with my mindset, my business, my outlook on everything. And over the years, we developed a close relationship and I was excited when she decided to write a book. And she actually asked me to be one of the people who read it before it was published. And I was like, wow, this is everything I've paid you for. These are the lessons that have shaped my mindset and changed and so she wrote this book called The Non-Negotiable You. And it's really about showing up for yourself. And what's wild is all the years of working with her and all the progress. And we're having this conversation. And like 2 days ago, I met with her because I just think when something's working, there's always another layer. There's always another push. There's always another level. And we were meeting and I was sharing some current struggles. And it was like I walked away with this message of go all in, go on the offense. You get scared sometimes, you start to go on the defense. And for me, that's part of showing up. It's like the non-negotiable you. It helps you really determine your values. It just boils down to who you are, who you want to be, how you want to show up, and is like this easy to read, easy to consume, play by play of getting you to the next level. So I love it. I love the woman behind the book. I love all of it.
I love the name of the book, actually. So yeah, thank you for recommending it. So again, thank you for being on the podcast. And before you go, please tell the audience where they can go to learn more about you and your business.
So the business is on Instagram. I always think is the easiest place because you can link to everything there. And that's Shop Common Thread OC.
Great.
That'll take you everywhere else you need to go.
As always, everything she mentioned, the book, Instagram handle, and everything we discussed will be in the show notes. If you go to the DTCinsider.com and find the episode, you will find everything. Again, link to the book and the Instagram handle. And of course, I'll link the website as well, of course. Stephani, thanks again for being on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Brian. Have an awesome day.
This episode was brought to you by BSR Digital. We help DTC brands grow through paid ads and email marketing campaigns. If you'd like us to help your business grow, head on over to bsrdigital.com and schedule a call with us.